You can start, Kevin.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Ward, and welcome to this ADE Cohort Graduation Rate Systems webinar. I am the Systems Analyst with the School Performance Unit, and I am here alongside Michelle Harp, who is the Director for the School Performance and Monitoring Unit. So we are here on behalf of Tiffany Grayer, who is the coordinator of the School Performance and Monitoring Unit. And so we are here to help you and guide you with making graduation rate corrections. So in this session, we'll be talking about the alternate pathway to graduation. You will know who will be a part of the 4-year and 5-year cohort. Also, you will learn how graduation rates impacts the ESSA School Index. And also then we're going to talk about how to analyze your grad rate corrections. So the alternate pathway to graduation won't be in this upcoming graduation rate correction process, but it will be for next year. So back in February of 2019, the Arkansas State Board of Education adopted this for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. Those same students must also meet the criteria for and participate in the alternate assessment during their freshman and sophomore years. To mark the student as on the alternate pathway, you must mark them as Y in eSchool. So once again, this is for your 9th and 10th graders. If a student transfers into your high school from out of state as a 11th grader or a 12th grader, first thing you will need to check is to see was the student eligible for the alternate assessment at their prior school. If they were, then you will mark them as S, and they will be on the alternate pathway. When a student goes into the alternate pathway, they will be placed in what we say like a holding. They will stay in holding until they complete Arkansas graduation requirements through core, SMART core, or the alternate pathway, which is where they either ages out of FAPE or they exit without enough credits to graduate. So as you can see in this flow chart, here's a visualization regarding the holding and the exiting. If the student graduates on time by the end of cycle 9 or August 31st, they will be counted as an on-time graduate for the 2023 cohort. If the student exits without finishing the requirement, the student will remain in the 2023 cohort. But let's say that student, they can either stay in school and move to the following school year, making them now a part of the 2024 cohort. All right. So when they move to the 2024 cohort, and if they graduate within that cohort year, they will be counted as an on-time graduate for the 2024 cohort. If not, they can move on to the following year, all the way until they age out of FAPE. And this also just going on more in details about the alternate pathway and how they will be counted within the numerator. They will be counted within the numerator as an on-time graduate. If they don't graduate, or if they age out of FAPE or they exit with no credentials, then they'll be counted in the denominator as a non-graduate. And then more going in detail regarding how the process of alternate pathway to graduation works, how it's processed. And so now we're gonna let Michelle Harp, she's gonna come in and she's gonna talk about how graduation rate makes an impact on ESSA.
Good morning, everyone. Michelle Harp from the School Performance Unit. Before I get started, we've had a lot of really good questions come over chat. I'm going to ask that you put those in the Q&A section. That way we can actually respond to those messages. So if possible, please use the Q&A. That way we can man those responses and get you some answers quickly. So I'm going to be walking you through the impact on accountability, a little bit more about cohorts, and how can you improve your graduation rates. So graduation rates play a role in our state and federal accountability systems. We're going to focus on Arkansas's federal accountability system this morning, the ESSA School Index. So the ESSA School Index is aligned with state and federal requirements, and it was developed using feedback from stakeholders. The index is made of multiple indicators that vary by grade span. As you can see, we have grade spans for elementary, middle, and high school. All grade spans have indicators for weighted achievement, value-added growth, and school quality and student success. However, high school grade spans also include 4- and 5-year graduation rates. So looking just at the high school grade spans, the weighted achievement and value-added growth, those hold the bulk of the weight. They're both weighted at 35% each. SQSS is weighted at 15%, 4-year graduation's at 10%, and then the 5-year graduation rate is at 5%. So we're going to look at the role that graduation rates play in ESSA calculations for high school. The left column shows each ESSA indicator. The middle column shows the score that the high school received on each indicator. And the last column shows how each indicator is weighted. So since we're talking about graduation rates today, we're going to skip down to that 4-year ACGR. So looking at that 4-year adjusted cohort rate, or ACGR, the high school had a graduation rate of 85%. The 4-year ACGR is weighted at 10%, so we multiply 85 by 10%, and which makes 8.5 points earned. So next is the 5-year ACGR. The high school was able to graduate 90% of its students in 5 years. So we multiply the graduation rate of 90 by the weight of 5%, giving the school an additional 4.5 points. All of the indicators from weighted achievement down to 5-year ACGR, all those indicator points are added together. And total, it gave the school an ESSA index score of 67.5. So where do school letter grades come into play in all of this? So that public school rating, or a letter grade, it's a state accountability measure, and it's aligned with the ESSA School Index. We use a rating scale to determine the letter grade. So the high school's ESSA score of 67.5 falls within the 61.10 to 67.95 range, which corresponds to a C rating. Okay, next up is graduation cohort. So I've used the term ACGR, or adjusted cohort graduation rate, but what exactly does it mean? What is a 4- and a 5-year cohort? We'll start with a 4-year cohort. So the definition for the 4-year cohort, it comes from federal guidance. And the 4-year ACGR is the number of students who graduate from high school in 4 years divided by the number of students who form the adjusted cohort for the graduating class. So to determine an adjusted cohort for the graduating class, what you'll do is you'll consider the number of students who enter grade 9 for the first time. That's going to be your initial cohort. Adjust the cohort by adding any student who transfers in later than that initial cohort date, and subtract any student from the cohort who transfers out, immigrates to another country, or dies during that same period. So for example, a school district starts out with 56 students in their initial 9th grade cohort. At some point, 10 additional on-time students transfer into the cohort and 6 students transfer out. In this case, the denominator for the calculation of the adjusted cohort yields 56 plus 10 minus 6 equals 60. So a few important things to note here. A student who repeats a grade is no longer on time and they can't be removed from the cohort. And secondly, if the student is an early graduate, they're going to remain in their initial cohort. We also use 5-year cohorts in Arkansas, and that's called an extended ACGR. And an extended ACGR is calculated to include students who graduate from high school in 1 or more additional years beyond their cohort's original 5 years in high school. So in Arkansas, we use a 5-year ACGR, and that's based on the number of students who graduate in 5 years after their original cohort started grade 9, divided by the adjusted cohort of students who started grade 9 5 years earlier. So it's important to note here that students who do not graduate by the summer after their 4th year of high school, so by the end of cycle 9, they're going to be included in that 5-year cohort for the district and the school. So districts and schools can still receive credit as being an on-time graduate in the 5th year cohort if the student is able to complete graduation requirements at the end of the 5th year. They would be part of the 5-year cohort. So the reason that a lot of you are probably here today, though, is to talk about how to improve graduation rates. And the most important thing to do is to ensure proper enrollment. Most of the conversations that we have during the graduation rate and the assessment correction window are all about making sure that your data are accurate and that students are enrolled correctly. So first-time grade 9 students are expected to be in grades 10, 11, and 12 in the 3 successive years of their cohort. This works similarly for high schools who begin their cohorts in the 10th or 11th grade. So on our side in school performance, we use cycle data to determine when and where a student was last on time in credits. Kevin's going to show you what that looks like from our side a little bit later in this presentation. What you need to know now is to be mindful of proper grade level placement based on the number of credits per year in Arkansas graduation requirements when you're enrolling students new to your LEA or promoting students currently enrolled within the LEA. A student can also fall behind and catch up on credits within the same year or across multiple years. So the biggest way that you can ensure that your graduation rate won't be impacted if you are receiving a transfer student is making sure that you're enrolling the students in the grade in which they were last on time based on credits and graduation requirements. So for example, if you have a student who is supposed to be in the 11th grade, but they only have 5 credits, don't enroll them as an 11th grader. Make sure that you're enrolling them in the grade in which they have the appropriate amount of credits. Okay. And the second way that you can really improve your graduation rate is to use our ACGRS system. There are a few different types of corrections that you can make within ACGRS. And those types of corrections are adding a record, validating a record, and deleting a record. So when you add a record, this is used when an actual on-time graduate was not included in the school or district's cohort record, and you need to add them to receive credit for their graduation. Validating a record is used when a student was an actual on-time graduate, but they were marked as a non-graduate in ACGRS. And deleting a record removes a student from the cohort as an expected graduate. So all of these actions require documentation that's outlined in the ACGRS guide. This lives on my desk for all of October, November, and December, and it will probably live on yours too. It's linked in our presentation. Make sure to print out this ACGRS guide. The required documentation comes straight from federal guidance, and it has to be complete and correct in order for a change to be accepted. So a few common mistakes that can happen during the corrections process is that the districts choose the wrong type of graduation, especially corrections for validate and delete. So when you're validating a record, that tells us that the student is an actual on-time graduate that was marked as a non-graduate. What validate cannot be used for is removing a student from a cohort. You're going to want to use delete a record if you need to remove a student. And last, let's talk about students that can and cannot be removed from a cohort. So first are students who, if they have all the appropriate documentation and they were on time when they left you, they can be removed from your cohort. So this includes students who were leaving your school for homeschool or private school. They enrolled in another school out of state, immigrated to another country. Note with all of those, the student has to be on time when they're transferring out of your school. If they went to private school, they left your school for private school, but they'd already repeated a grade with you, they were last on time with you. The last one is deceased. So when considering an on-time student to be removed for homeschool, private school, moving out of state, you have to have that official written documentation that they have transferred to another high school or educational program from which the student is expected to graduate and meet those requirements for graduation. So that acceptable documentation is again provided in the ACGRS guide. We have to have everything that is in the guide. So if there are two documents and there's an and in the middle, we need both of those documents in order to accept. So a state cannot count as a transfer a student who is retained in grade or they weren't on time. And last, if a student passed away, a letter from a parent or an obituary is all you need for documentation. So again, study this guide. Whatever you need is going to be in here. And if it's not, check that federal guidance or call us. And the last slide that I have is students who have to remain in the cohort. So students who leave high school due to a GED, incarceration, expulsion, lack of attendance, or Job Corps Youth Challenge, C-STEP, they must remain in a school's cohort. The federal guidance dictates this. If a student is retained in grade, they've got to stay in the cohort. Likewise, if they leave high school for a program that offers a general equivalency diploma, they have to remain in the cohort. And last, a student can't be removed for incarceration because Arkansas prisons don't offer the courses that allow students to complete the requirements for graduation. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin, who is going to talk about troubleshooting corrections.
All right. So as Michelle discussed earlier about proper enrollment of students, we see this a lot with students who transfers into an Arkansas school from out of state. So let's just say like a student will say they are in the 11th grade and the school will mark them as 11th grade. But later down the road, the school noticed that the student actually should have been in the 10th grade. So this is a common mistake we see every year. So please be mindful of the grade level you place out-of-state students. So a student can transfer to any school, inside and outside the state of Arkansas. But the student needs to be on time to graduate to be removed from your high schools and districts cohort. Now, speaking of transfers, another thing we see is students who enrolls at the Arkansas School for the Math, Science, and the Arts in Hot Springs. Now, within ACGRS, you can remove the student. If you have a student who went to that school in Hot Springs, you can remove the student from your cohort and it would be approved. But you can't mark them as an actual graduate for your high school and district because the Arkansas School for the Math, Science, and Arts is a part of the University of Arkansas system. As Michelle stated once again, if a student is retained in a grade, they cannot be removed from the cohort. Or if they went and got a GED, they can't be removed from the cohort. This also includes students who enrolls in Youth Challenge because the courses that are offered in Youth Challenge does not meet the Arkansas graduation requirements. So last year during graduation rate, after we processed all the corrections, so we kind of did an analysis of some of the top denials and reasons. And so one of the top denials is students who was coded as lack of attendance or they pretty much dropped out. So to help at-risk students in your school or district, we have provided resources from the U.S. Education Department designed to improve the likelihood of high school graduation, such as early warning systems, personalized learning plans, credit recovery, anything else that is required. Also, another top denial is students who went to GED. So once again, GED is not considered as being an on-time graduate. Students who have passed a high school equivalency exam may work towards completing Arkansas graduation requirements until they turn 21. Also, another thing that we kind of see is we do see schools trying to say, well, student did graduate, but they graduated under an IEP. You got students who graduate under an IEP is not considered as an on-time graduate. And another top denial is they fell behind in credits, they repeated a grade. Well, so once again, schools, hey, be mindful on which grade to enroll, not only just students who's coming into your school from out of state, but even those who transfers, from one Arkansas school to another Arkansas school. So if you need to just double check, if you need to triple check, hey, quadruple check, just making sure you're placing these transfer students into the right grade. Now, Michelle stated earlier about the cycle reporting. So every year we kind of get this huge spreadsheet that shows the list of students who were, who did not graduate. And in this cycle report, it kind of shows it kind of tracks what happened with that student while in Arkansas, but they just had to be in an Arkansas public school. So here's kind of an example of what we see. So, like I said, once again, we give kind of spreadsheet looking like this for all the students that were non-graduates. And so, as you see with Bruce Wayne, he was 9th grade on time, 10th grade on time, 11th grade on time. And then when Bruce got to 12th grade, so he was at Gotham City Prep for just for a little bit in that 21-22 school year before he went to homeschool. So we see the drop code SIS 16, which is homeschool. He went to homeschool on time, November of 2021. Same thing with Minnie Mouse. Once again, Minnie was on time to graduate up until we see this drop code. She started off her senior year of high school, and then she dropped a month, kind of like a month later, and she was coded as 17. SIS code for 17 is homeschool. So whereas Bruce over here went to private school, Minnie went to homeschool. Now, this is where we better see some things that get a bit, kind of tricky. So Mickey Mouse, we see that he was on time, but what happened to Mickey? So in this example, we've seen that Mickey didn't really graduate on time, because Mickey is considered as a non-graduate. So we're assuming that Mickey is still at Disney High School, but Mickey's going to finish in the 5th year at Disney for Disney High School's cohort. In this example for Donald Duck, once again, Donald, he was on time, but then check this out. Drop code for 14 is basically lack of attendance. And as we've seen, if a student is coded for lack of attendance or basically dropped out, then that student will be counted, counted against your cohort. So Donald Duck will go into the denominator calculation for your graduation rate. Now, in this example, Bugs Bunny, on time 9th grade, on time 10th grade, get to 11th grade, but check this, check rows. If you look at cells E19 to F20, as you can see, Bugs Bunny repeated the 11th grade. And then before going to homeschool, once again, you repeat a grade or if you repeat a grade before going to homeschool, repeat a grade before just doing anything else, then that student cannot be removed from the cohort. With Bart, 9th grade, 10th grade. Now, as we see here, Bart Simpson was doing good, and then he tried to go to Shelbyville, and Shelbyville noticed that Bart Simpson did not have enough credits to be an 11th grader. So Shelbyville would be so Shelbyville did the right thing and still it put Bart as a 10th grader. So because Bart Simpson did not meet enough credits, Bart would still be a part of Springfield High School. And we're here, code 11. So like I said, so he did all this, repeated the 10th grade before he went and got a GED. With Homer, as you can see, Homer jumped around a lot. He jumped around a whole lot. So he started off at Shelbyville, then went to Ogdenville. Now, and check this out here. You went to North Haverbrook, get to Springdale, and then look at this. So Springfield High School, they enrolled Homer as an on-time 11th grader from North Haverbrook, and then they had their dough moment, and they noticed that Homer didn't have that. They shouldn't put Homer as an 11th grade, that Homer should have still been in the 10th grade. So they tried to change the grade to try to put him back in his original grade. So, but because Springfield High put him on time, he's still going to be a part of Springfield High School's cohort. And so it's, like I said, we see this a whole lot of schools putting students in, they promote the student up, but then later on down the road, it kind of bites them in the butt. So like I said, so just be mindful of me. It's easy, you just kind of just like I said, as I stated earlier, just kind of just double check and triple check everything regarding the placement, the enrollment placement of students. All right. So before we wrap things up, we just got this just about 2 questions just to make sure if you kind of make sure you got understanding of this whole transferring in, transferring out, which cohort, which school's cohort this student belongs to. So a student started 9th grade during the 2018-19 school year. The student graduated a year early during the 2020-21 school year. Which cohort year does the student belong to? And you can drop your answers in the chat. Okay. So, all right. So looking at the chat, and so some of y'all, yeah, I do have the right answer for it, as the student belongs in the 2022 cohort. All right. So now some of the answers I've seen for 2018-19, so that's when the students started. All right. So the student started 9th grade during the 2018-19 school year. And we are looking at for the students to complete grades 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. So 2018-19 was 9th grade. 2019-20 was 10th grade. 2020-21, 11th grade. 21-22, 12th grade. So yeah, so that's why the student belongs in the 2022 cohort. All right, so the next question. A student started 9th grade at Union High School. During that year, the student transferred across town to Midway High School and fell behind during the 10th grade year. The student later transferred to Curry High School, in which the student brought their grades up and had enough credits to graduate on time. Which school's cohort does the student belong to? And so you're going to drop the answers in the chat. Lots of different answers for this one. So for the ones who said Curry High School, you are correct. Because the reason why Curry gets the credit for why this student belongs to Curry is because Curry High School caught that student up and graduated them on time. Now, the only way that the student will belong in Midway is if the student did not catch up at Curry High School. All right. So if the student never caught up, caught their credits back up to graduate, then the student would still be at Midway's cohort. All right. So, but because Curry did their part and graduated that student on time, Curry gets the credit, and Curry gets the credit for that student. So now we have some resources that are available for you. And Michelle, she showed one of them, one of the resources that you can use in order to make graduation corrections. So if you can, so please, open up those links, download, print, and just have it on hand for you, just something for you to refer to when you're making these graduation corrections. So, and the graduation rate corrections, don't want to scare you and nothing like that, but it will be opening on Halloween Day, and it will close at 5 p.m. on November 14th, which is the Monday after Veterans Day. So as long as the window is open, if you have any questions, you have some concerns, you know, you can contact us at any time and we are more than willing to help you. If we notice that some improper documentation that was submitted while we are processing the corrections, we can contact you, we advise you like, hey, this is the type of documentation that we need. You know, we can unlock the corrections for you, and that way you can upload the correct documentation. So once again, the system will close at 5 p.m. So please make sure you submit your corrections on time. And if you have any other questions, you can contact Tiffany Grayer, you can contact myself, Michelle Hart, Louis Farron, or anybody within the school performance and monitoring unit. Will be more than willing to help in any way possible, answer any questions that you may have over the phone, email, you know, so just, hey, we are here to help you. And before we leave, you know, you can fill out our exit ticket, just kind of just give us some feedback on the areas that, you know, just want to share your input on the webinar, in what ways that we can better help you in understanding not only graduation rates, but even if you need, you know, for his report card, ESSA school index, you know, just share your thoughts and information, and that way we can know how to help better serve you. So we got some questions. I think let's see. We got Mr. Farron's working on one question. Okay, so we got one question asking, what is the best report to run to find out the students we should be tracking? So there is this smart data dashboard that was that kind of went live on back in August. So the smart data dashboard kind of keeps track of kind of keeps tracks of the students, where the students went throughout the state of Arkansas. So that could be, that's one option, that one way you could look at things. Also just probably if you just kind of just do a cycle report from your e-school, just going back the previous 4 years, and you can do that as well. Let's see, another question is, why are public schools penalized for expulsions? It almost seems like districts are being punished for maintaining a safe and orderly environment by removing those students from the student population. Districts might be tempted to keep students who should be expelled just to increase their graduation rate. All right, so good question. All right, so this is we just following what the federal guidance tells us. And I would say this, I share your concerns. I kind of feel you, but we just going by what the federal guidance states, and which is, you know, if a student is expelled, they will still be a part of that. They will be counted against your high school and district's graduation rate. All right, let Mr. Farron answer another question. Okay. Got a question asking, will Trian help track the students? Yes, it can, and then it can, and then also, it can, but then we also have seen where we see where students could go from one Arkansas school to another Arkansas school and be enrolled in another, and they go to that new Arkansas school under another state ID. So if they're still using the same state ID, then it can help. But this is just also, but this is what we're looking at is for the ones who jump from one school and after jump from one school to another school and they having duplicate IDs. So, but trying can help though. Just be cautious about the ones who have enrolled to another school under another and got enrolled with another state ID. Okay, we got another question saying that I thought all students now who are expelled by law may still attend school online. Okay, let's see. That the may have to discuss with me about how you may need to discuss with me about attending school online. And because there are, I mean, if it's a certified online school, then maybe, but still, if they were expelled, then if they were expelled by the school, then this still will count against the high schools and district's graduation rate. The other question says, will you show us the portal? So this was going back to that, to the kind of, well, so this is where you may have to, you would have to do let's say your own Cognos report, eSchool report showing, to keep track of the students who are part, yeah, you may have to do a Cognos and eSchool report on that. We can't show you that. So yeah, so there, and even when you log into the ACGRS on Monday, you will see a list of students in your graduation table that that is coded as those who did graduate and those that did not graduate. And you will see the list of students in the ACGRS system. Okay, another question we have is, on expulsion, we have to provide services. If they complete the courses provided of them and make it to graduation, do they count for your school to the good? That's interesting. That's a good question. If they complete now, it all depends probably on the type of services that was provided. I would say, yeah, what kind of services, I would say that. So, and does the services meet the Arkansas graduation requirements? So you may want to look at that. Does it meet the Arkansas graduation requirements, these services that your district and school is providing? Another question we have. We enrolled a student who is in the 9th grade for the 2nd year due to not enough credits. If the student does not get on track by senior year, who takes the punch for that? Us or the school they came to us from. So this road student who is in the 9th grade for the 2nd year due to not enough credits. Okay, so if if you enroll them at the beginning of this school year, and they already came to your school behind in the 9th grade, then the student belongs to the prior school. All right, so they belong to the prior school's cohort until you catch. Now, if your high school catches them up and graduates them on time, then they will be a part of your school. But right now, they are a part of the prior school's cohort. All right, another question asks, can you elaborate on the statement made earlier about students who graduate on an IEP? So, students who graduate under an IEP, that students like that, they're not considered as an actual graduate, and they will still kind of still be in high school and still being in your high school and district until they turn 21. So if those students like that, like, yeah, it does not count as an actual on time, since they still going to be at your school regardless. Let's see. Could you place the student virtual instead of expelled, and then allow the student to meet the graduation requirements? Yeah, that question there, let's see. That question there, I don't allow the student to be great. Depends where I would say if they go into depends what virtual school that student is going. I would say that, because if that student does go to a virtual school, if the student goes to the virtual school, then that the virtual school needs to look at where exactly the right grade level to place that student. So even though the student may have been expelled at your district, and the virtual school sees this and says, hey, like, like, we're gonna still put this student, let's say still as an 11th grader, then that student would still be a part of your high school and district's cohort. Let's see. Another question is, so if a student moves to us behind on credits and we place them in the correct grade based on those credits, they will not count against us if they do not graduate on time. But if we put them in the grade by their age and they don't graduate on time, they now count against us. Okay, so really though, we kind of don't on our end, we don't look at age. We just kind of looking at, is the student, once a student starts that cohort year, starts that 9th grade, doesn't matter if the student could be 17-year-old starting 9th grade, right? So that 17-year-old, if that 17-year-old start 9th grade, then we're expecting that student to finish in 4 years. So we kind of not look at age per se. So But yeah, but I was just like I said, but if the student, as you stated, the student comes to y'all behind, and you place them, like I said, just make sure if they already coming to you behind, then you can still place that student behind until you know otherwise that, hey, this student does have enough credits to be, to be promoted to to the next grade. And I would say this too, talking about this grade level, increasing grade level, please make sure that you enroll this. If you're gonna, let's say let's say you have a student that's in the 10th grade that came into your school that's in the 10th grade, and then you bump them up to the 11th grade. Make sure you change that student grade level before the window for that state assessment exam. Because during the past reason I tested corrections, and even prior years for the reason I tested corrections, we do see a lot of students that get bumped from 10th grade to the 11th grade during the testing window. So please, now if you have a 10th grader and they need, like, make sure you go, bump them up before the testing window. All right, let's see. Let me get to the other part. This. Okay, I think that was I think we already answered that. What will the expel? Okay, will the expelled student stay with us if we have them enrolled as re-entry from expulsion with services? I think that student would still be, yeah, the student would still be part of your cohort. Another question. If we accept a student on time and then they never attend school, do they belong to us or the last school? So it depends when I would say if the student, let's say if the student was let's say at the beginning of the school year, you got that 10-day window. If the student doesn't show up and you drop that student before the 10 days, for the 10-day window, then the student don't belong within your district. But if you don't drop the student before the 10 days, then the student will be accounted for your district. Okay, and let's see. And I think okay. All right, so I think that's all. Let's see, I think that's all the questions that's been answered. So once again, we want to thank each and every one of you for attending this webinar. Okay. So I've got one said, can you put the exit ticket link in the chat? We definitely can. We definitely can. So once again, we just want to thank each and every one of you for attending this webinar. And once again, graduation rate correction is from October 31st through November 14th. Like I said, if you have any other questions, concerns, just the help with it, just give the school performance and monitoring unit a call, and we are more than willing to help. Yes, we will place, we can put the PowerPoint back in the chat for you.
I'm getting a few messages that the links aren't opening. All of the links that were included are also on our website. that's going to be a great place for you to check. If you just go to desi.ade.arkansas.gov, just Division of Elementary and Secondary Education's website, in the offices, Public School Accountability, we have recently redone our part of the website. So in the school performance and monitoring section, all of the links listed are also on our website. So we apologize that those links aren't working. They're all on our website as well.
All right, so all right, let's say we once again just hold on, we'll get that just go to the DESE website, and so once you get there, which is desi.ade.arkansas.gov, you want to look for this as a matter of fact, since I can show y'all this. Maybe. All right, so once you go here, once you get to the DESE website, you want to go to Offices, Public School Accountability. And then you can click on School Performance and Monitoring. Click Cohort Graduation Rates, either on this side or this side. Scroll down, and there's all the documentation that you could, that you can open up, and you can just, you can open up, print it off, and have it, right next to your computer. All right. If that's everything else, like I said, we thank you for hopping on this webinar. And once again, any other questions, concerns, you just give us a call or email us, and we will be more than willing to answer and help you in any way possible. All right. All right. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.